The 911 dispatcher who took the call just after midnight had heard plenty of strange ones, but a 7-year-old whispering urgently that he needed police right away still made her sit up straighter. Eli Sanford kept his voice low, like he was trying not to wake someone, and gave his address in the careful, rehearsed way of a kid who'd practiced it. He wouldn't say what was wrong, only that it was an emergency and they needed to come now. Officers Dana Reyes and Marcus Chen arrived within 9 minutes, gear ready for whatever waited inside. A domestic disturbance, an intruder, something that explained a child calling alone at midnight. Eli answered the door himself, still in pajamas, a small flashlight clutched in one hand. He led them inside without a word, walking carefully on his toes past a hallway lined with photos, military portraits among them, until he reached the living room. There on the couch, his mother lay asleep, still in her work uniform, one shoe still on, a phone resting face down on her chest. Dana's training kicked in immediately, checking for breathing, for any sign something was actually wrong. The mother stirred slightly at the footsteps, breathing steady, clearly just deeply asleep. Marcus scanned the room for anything explaining Eli's urgency. No forced entry, no injuries, nothing out of place except the boy himself, flashlight aimed at the floor, watching them with an expression less like fear and more like he was waiting for them to understand something he hadn't found words for on the phone, something he'd clearly rehearsed saying out loud more than once already, alone in the dark. Dana crouched a moment longer, running through the short list of things that make a child this calm and this deliberate about getting help. Not a nightmare, not a stranger in the house, something he'd clearly been sitting with for a while, working up the nerve to act on it alone, in the dark, without waking anyone first. She noticed his hands weren't shaking, his voice wasn't cracking the way a frightened child's usually does. Whatever this was, Eli had already made peace with saying it out loud to strangers in uniform, which somehow made the moment feel heavier, not lighter. She asked him directly what scared him enough to dial that number at midnight. Eli hesitated, glancing at his sleeping mother, then asked quietly if they could talk in the kitchen instead, so they wouldn't wake her too soon. The two officers exchanged a look that said neither had any idea what was coming, and followed him down the hall, past more of those military photographs neither had asked about yet. Marcus already running through quieter, darker possibilities in his head that didn't match the boy's calm, careful pace. Possibilities involving people who might still be somewhere in the house, waiting. In the kitchen under the harsh overhead light, Eli finally explained, the words coming out matter of fact. He'd heard on a show his mom usually didn't let him watch, that people who fall asleep without checking in sometimes don't wake up. He'd been keeping watch nearly 2 hours, unsure if this counted as the dangerous kind of sleeping. His mother hadn't talked to anyone since her second job that night, he explained. Nothing to prove she'd made it home safely, besides himself watching. Donna asked where his father was, noticing the photos. Eli said his dad had been gone almost 5 months on what his mom called the deployment, and since then it had mostly been just the two of them. Dana spoke with Eli's mother once she woke, mortified to find officers in her kitchen. She worked days and overnight shifts to cover the gap the deployment left. Her support network quietly thinned while everyone assumed she had things handled. Dana asked if it would be all right to check in occasionally. That became something steadier over the following months, finally giving Eli the reassurance he'd been trying to provide alone. What started as a midnight emergency turned out to be the clearest signal a quietly struggling family could send. Would you want to know exactly what a child you love was afraid of, even if the danger wasn't the kind anyone expected?